Yeah, it's always different in person. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
The chemistry is different.
Chemistry is
and the
different,
energy's
exactly.
different,
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, welcome.
Thank you.
I actually got to check out the Insight episode as well, which I found very interesting as well. I was even thinking, the gentleman that was talking about how he used to get bullied or picked on about his nose.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you actually got an all right nose, bro. So I don't even know.
I was
like,
same thing.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? And in that episode, I mean, in that whole content of watching him, he does have those active vibes in him too. Because he was saying he was told, So I was like, that was crazy. But we'll get to all of that anyway.
Like, because I met him before, before we went, before the recording, I met him in person. He was saying, this is what he was dealing with, and I was like, man, kids will find anything to pick on someone about. You can be too short, too tall.
So did you guys before you guys went on air and did the episode? Is that the first time that you all interacted and you start to find out what some of the other people went through and stuff?
Like literally 5-10 minutes before we went on stage, for want of a better term. Like we were in the green room or in this room outside, just like some of us had gotten our makeup and hair done and we were waiting there, and he and his brother were there, and so I was just chatting to them, and so when he was telling me, I was like, holy crap, people will find anything to pick on someone about. And it could be for any number of reasons. It could be to make them feel better about themselves, so they'll put someone else down so they feel bigger because they're insecure.
Generally the case. Yeah.
Or if they're insecure about something, they'll isolate something in someone else and pick on them about that. So then no one notices the flaw that they perceive themselves to have.
So for those that don't know, we're talking about SBS Insight had an episode on body positivity, and obviously Janu was one of the guests there. So check it out. You can on SBS Demand. What was your first TV experience like? What emotions came out of that, man? Like, 'cause it's pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah. I was very nervous. Yeah. So the analogy I give is when you see a duck gliding along the water and it looks quite elegant and graceful as it's sort of sliding along, but what you don't see is underneath the surface of the water, it's like pandemonium, like the duck's little legs are just so that was literally how I felt. Like I may have looked calm on the outside, but inside my heart was just going ka-thunk, 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 ka-thunk.
Nah, you done well, because even when other people were talking, you were in the backdrop, right?
Yeah.
So I would keep an eye and I would just see what you're doing, and you know what I mean? And man, and I was thinking to myself, you would even just then, even if you're not the person that's talking at the time, the question being answered to, you're still in the frame, right? And you probably kind of know that too. So, but you were chilled. Yeah. There was nothing that gave it away that you were nervous. So,
And the other crazy part, they said, we're going to be shooting from all angles. So they said, you have to look presentable from all angles.
Yeah.
So when I sort of I did my own hair and they did my makeup. So I was making sure I was trying to make sure every strand of hair was in the right place. Because I was like, okay, what if they shoot it from an angle and there's a bit of hair sticking out?
What was the emotions like, bro, being on TV?
It was just talking about, my previous traumas and experience. It did bring up a lot of emotions, but at the same time it was kind of reassuring because I was in a room full of other people who've gone through similar traumas, similar sort of experiences, and I kind of felt like I wasn't alone in a sense, and I've actually made some friends out of it. So I'm in touch with some of the people that I met on the show, and when I started posting my own content after I went on the show, I did get a comment, a few stupid comments, and so I was able to show them these comments and just defer to them and say, what do you do? Because some of these guys have been on social media for a while. They've got a lot of followers. So I go, I was able to ask them, and they said the best thing you can do is just don't engage, just ignore. And so now I've got these people who are my friends, and who I can also go to for advice.
Who can understand what, to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
What
you're
going
sharing my
through.
story.
Yeah.
And just hearing what some of the other guys went through, that young woman who's, so her name's April, she's called the Bodzilla on Instagram. And when she was younger, one of her friends said, "Oh, I'm not going to give you a birthday present. I'm going to give you money for your Jenny
Jenny
Craig."
Craig, yeah, I saw
was like,
that.
holy
yeah,
crap.
I know. When I saw that, and I thought, I'm like, fuck! Imagine your friend doing that as a birthday present.
Like,
that's
if the camera went on me, you would have seen my jaw just hit the ground.
yeah.
Because and it blew my mind that something could be so hurtful. But on the same token, it didn't surprise me because people have said messed up things to me as well. So I was like, okay, yep, that's human nature. But when you sort of hear it happening to someone else, you're like, oh my God, it's not just me, and I'm not alone in this. And you know, and so
what was I know in one of your videos, one of the content videos that you put out, you did talk about people that you grew up with and people, you know, who weren't as aware as they are now of what you've been through, reach out to you and apologize and etc.
yeah.
What's that been like? And was that purely on the basis that they didn't know what you were going through, or were they, you know, were they bullies, or were they people that said hurtful things at the time, and or is it a mix of everything? Like, you know, who like, yeah, like what was that interaction like for you? Because obviously we get mature as we grow older, right? And we see things differently.
Yeah.
But let's not kid ourselves. Sometimes we're fucking pissed off as well, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it can bring up old emotions, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what was that like for you?
So I've actually sort of, you know, so I've done a lot of personal development work myself, and part of it was learning to forgive people who may have hurt me or abandoned me or, you know, bullied me and all of that. And I'd done a lot of forgiveness work, so I wasn't in need of that apology. But on the same token, it was nice to have, because I guess I just got to that point where I was like, okay, I know how much it hurt to be bullied or not, to be misunderstood, or like, you know, all the other things. Because one of the people who reached out to me, they didn't necessarily bully me in high school, but, you know, they weren't all that understanding, and
Still hurts.
And it still hurt, you know what I mean? And just the fact that they acknowledged it and sort of said, sorry, I wasn't so understanding, it was nice to have, but, you know, I didn't necessarily need it, but it just felt good to know that someone actually could see the pain that I'd gone through and were able to acknowledge, I guess, their role in it, for want of a better term. And yeah, it was just very kind of that person to do that. But I guess, how do I say this? The thing is, you know, in life, there are people that are going to hurt you and all of that, but, you know, they're not always going to acknowledge it, and they're not always going to sort of say, sorry, I hurt you, or whatever. And you can go to them and say, hey, you hurt me, but, you know, they may not be in that place to be able to acknowledge that they hurt you or caused you that pain. And, you know, you may not get that apology or that acknowledgement that you're seeking. And so you have to, you know, you have to do the healing work within yourself and just know that, you know, that, you know, like I'll quote here. So, you know, that Will Smith's, I can't remember which Will Smith song it is, where he said, people are going to hurt you, disrespect you and treat you bad. Yeah. But hate in your heart will consume you too. You can just,
I think it was just the two of us.
Yes, that's
it
the
was.
one.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the exact lyric.
Yeah, but I know, because he's like rapping it obviously to his son, right? Yeah.
So the thing is that, you know, people are going to disrespect you, treat you bad. They're going to do all of that. But holding on to it, it's like drinking poison and expecting them to die. So you've got to do that forgiveness work within you and, you know, let go of the hurt and the pain, or find ways to process it in a healthy way. And like sometimes you may get that apology, which is nice. Other times you won't. So
what's that process like for you? Like, you know, what, you know, without, I guess, having to go into it too much, but what does some of that involve in terms of like forgiving yourself and that process? What's that like? What is some of the processes like? What do you do?
So one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to, well, first of all, acknowledge that your pain is real, that your hurt is real. Like, don't don't dismiss it or diminish it. Like, you know, whatever happened to you, your pain and your hurt and your feelings, they are real. But you've got to, I guess, you've got to look at how holding on to that hurt and pain is impacting you and your life, and see how it might be like impacting other relationships. So you could be holding on to this hurt and withdrawing from lots of other relationships and denying yourself love and kindness and whatever from other relationships. And so you've really got to, I guess, examine that. And there's loads of different techniques you can do. There's one where it's, my mind has gone blank now, but it's called Ho'oponopono, and I can't remember the exact process, but it's a Hawaiian thing, and it's like a forgiveness exercise where you sort of say, you know, I'm sorry, I forgive you, you know, I love you, and all of that. And because you're holding on to anger not just at them, and like, you know, you're holding on to a lot of hatred towards them, and so you need to also say sorry to them as well as a part of this forgiveness process. And so
that'd be difficult, right?
It is. It's very difficult, and but yeah, you've got to do the work. Otherwise, you're going to hold on to it. And so it was. I'm not going to lie. It's not hard. Like, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, snap, it's done. Like, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and sometimes you've got to do the process multiple times.
Got to be committed,
before it lands.
What was your life like, even just post the SBS Insight episode? What was like some of the, I guess, the feedback you were getting, and you know, in terms of just the impact that it had?
It was actually pretty insane. In that I didn't realize the impact that being an ambassador was having on people until. Well, I did, but it kind of hit home after the SBS interview, when people were like randomly reaching out to me, like on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, saying, hey, I saw the interview and thank you so much for speaking out and being a voice. You know, I've been holding on to, like all these fears and things about my NF, and my child has NF now. And so I didn't realize that standing up and being a voice for people with NF would have such a huge impact. Until after the SBS Insight interview, when people actually reached out and sort of said to me, hey, XYZ is happening because you spoke out. And I was like, oh my goodness. So for me, it's made me realize I really have to work harder to raise awareness for NF and raise awareness for body acceptance and sort of like people with visible differences, so that way awareness is there and the world becomes a kinder place. And
you never know how you're impacting people too, right? Like you don't realize that your journey and what it's doing for someone else. You know what I mean? Until you do it.
And the thing is that I want to make the world a kinder place, not just people being kinder to each other, but people being kinder to themselves. Like, you need to be, in order to be kind to others, you also need to be kind to yourself and show yourself kindness. And
that's an important message, man. You got to have a strong internal, man. You have to have a strong internal, especially in this world. Like, I always say it, and I always recycle it, but I feel like if you have a strong internal, then you won't be as bothered by the external. You know what I mean? So it all starts with yourself, right? Life is a projection of how you feel, and so.
And sometimes people who are unkind to others is because they are unkind to themselves, and maybe in their childhood they experienced unkindness. And And this is why I say to people, you have to heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on somebody that didn't cut you. Because
that's heavy, bro.
No, because like, like just say, something hurt you, right? So you have a wife and kid now, right? So something in your life hurt you, and, you're bleeding, and, you don't do anything to heal that. And then you you could bleed all over your little boy and be like, and
You're
then
right,
cause
bro.
him trauma, and it just continues that trauma cycle.
And I ain't gonna lie, man. There's been times where I felt like I have done that, you know, and not in like any sort of harmful way, but like,
Something's triggered you. And
yeah, man. If I'm being honest, but you know, it's nothing that's daunting or haunting me, but I can tell. But you know, I've been very blessed and lucky enough. Like, obviously, I have systems in place, and you know, I have outlets, that healthy outlets, you know, that help me. You know what I mean? Deal with this. Like, I use my training and things like that. It's almost like therapy to me, because I get to unpack how I'm feeling about things, and then, you know, I can then decipher it, and it's okay. I'm sure every person goes through it, you know what I mean? Because it's not till certain things happen that you realize, oh shit, like I'm holding on to something, or I'm being triggered by something that has nothing to do with this situation right here, or the person in front of me, but it's because maybe it's the feeling that it's giving you, or the way it makes you feel, right? So I completely agree. Like, you know, that working on yourself is priority before anything else, man. You know, even if you have a family, everything, you know, the mentality is, you know, you kind of doing everything for them, and you know, your whole energy and expenditures on them too, right? But if you're not looking after yourself, then that's going to spread across the room, you know. And I think that end of the day, in the long run, that's more impactful. It's going to impact your family a lot more than you know, yourself. But
exactly.
no, I completely agree.
And just going slightly off topic here, but I think men have an immense amount of pressure on them, because up until now there's been this toxic sort of perception that men have to be this stoic, hard, strong sort of being that, you know, doesn't get impacted by anything and can't show emotion, can't show their feels, and I think that's really toxic. And I think, you know, men should be able to cry and show their feelings and process their emotions in a healthy way, rather than sort of bottle them all up and then eventually just, you know, explode. And so I think, like women also, you know, we have it tough as well, but men have it tough too, and sometimes that just gets forgotten. And this is why there are issues now where men, you know, like their relationships with their kids and things, like, you know, is messed up, because they haven't healthily processed their emotions, and they don't know how to teach their kids how to regulate their emotions, and
it's just a constant cycle. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because I'm that's why, you know, I always tell people you gotta have healthy outlets, you know, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's working on yourself. It's important, because there is going to be tough days. There's going to be days where things don't go your way, or you see a side of yourself that you're disappointed in, you know, and it's okay. We're human beings, man. We all, you know, we all mess up at times, you know, but as long as we have healthy systems in place that we can
100%.
fall on, and, you know, I'm glad I do, and it's something that I try to tell other people too as well, you know, because it's important. Like, I think especially for our generation, especially like us being from the same background, we know, right? Like our parents and then their parents. But I think especially for our generation, whether it's being a dad or a mum, more so even just being being a dad, I know for me, it's fucking important. It's at the top of my priority. Being a great dad, giving my son everything he needs, from love to just the communication and the platform to be himself. And, you know, that's a big part of like, you know, for me, that's a big part of like my existence right now. You know, it's not like, oh, it's just my kid, and, you know, and not that anyone just, you know, puts that to the side or anything like that, but putting that energy into that relationship so that they prosper, and it's easy, because sometimes you think you should be in a certain position, or you should be doing certain things, or you should be in a certain place where you're at, and that can take away the beauty of the fact that, it's not about all of that. It's about what's in front of you right there. That's your family, that's your world, that present moment, you know what I mean? So it's something that I always try to keep myself aware of, because it's easy to detour and go away from it sometimes when you're so caught up in what seems important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which really isn't in hindsight. You know, so
we're kind of in a I guess a strange position. So we're from a generation that, you know, well, in our case, our families came from Sri Lanka, came from a war, came from a place where things were hard, and like, you know, from a place of, I guess, lacking in that, you know, things were hard, things were challenging. So when our parents came here, they were like, okay, don't rock the boat, just stick to a certain path, become a doctor, lawyer, accountant, whatever, you know. One of those safe careers.
Safe careers, yeah.
Stay safe, like don't rock the boat, don't do, you know, don't veer off the diverted path. And now we have an abundance of opportunities here that we can be anything and everything. And now, you know, we can put an end to, you know, the trauma that our parents had, that their parents had, and we can sort of break that cycle and sort of, you know, and then
rechannel it the way it should be,
and show, like, you know, learn ourselves how to regulate our emotions, how to not feel like, you know, things are lacking, that we have abundance and we have, you know, ample opportunities, and teach that to our kids. So then when our kids go out into the world, they have this rock solid sense of self and sense of confidence and sense of safety, because, like, I guess, like, in a way I was a little bit lucky, like my parents, like, didn't have to full on flee a war like other people's parents did. But, you know, they came from a sense of no safety, whereas we've had safety living here in Australia, or even for some of the other people our generation living in Canada, England, USA, like New Zealand, wherever. Now we can give our kids that sense of safety that, you know, some of us may not necessarily have had. So it's about, just breaking that and teaching the next generation that you're safe.
And you got to think that way, right? That you got to think like you got to think how important your position is right now in order for certain things to be shaped for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Where we are going to be in 30, 40, we might not even live to see it. But our actions now could change a whole thinking of generation. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, I know it's deep, but that's how I'm starting to see things now.
It's like a drop in the
ocean. I realize, like, you can't be sometimes you might not be the person to live out that dream. You know what I mean? But you got to be willing to sacrifice and make those moments, you know what I mean? And sometimes sacrifice is a pretty hard word, because it's not really about sacrificing, but it's about, you know, make, you know, that awareness and providing that platform and that passage, so that 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, there's a sense of pride and there's a sense of variety in what we do, and we get to really nourish and show what we're capable of as a community, you know what I mean? And that takes time. So it's whether you're willing to, you know, are you willing to be in that fight for now, so that later on, and sometimes that's a legacy, man, you know what I mean? So did you ever think teenage Janu would be on TV doing all this, representing
teenage Janu would not have, like, if you went back in time and told teenage Janu that XYZ would happen, she'd probably think you were smoking something. Like, you know, she'd probably think you were nuts. And teenage Janu had such a low self-esteem that she wouldn't have even thought that she would be, you know, in the public eye so profoundly. And it was like I said in the interview, because for teenage Janu, when I looked at magazines and things, like the yardstick for beauty was blonde hair, blue-eyed, tall, slim, white, flawless skin, blue, you know, like perfection. And then you looked at the South Asian beauty standard, and it was Aishwarya Rai, you know, like long straight hair, the green eyes, fair skin. So I was like, okay, I don't fit in here. So I must be unattractive, you know. And so, like, you know, I would never have thought myself to be so publicly visible. So
which is crazy, because now
like
there's photos of you,
I'm everywhere.
Everywhere, bro.
So I was like, I'm like, damn, a few, like, many years ago, I would like, I hated having my photograph taken. I would have preferred to be behind the camera taking the photo, and it took a while to have that, I guess, a sense of ease in front of the camera. And I still feel awkward in front of the camera. So I'm always like, okay, is my hand in the right place? Does my face look funny? Like, so obviously, I don't think that will ever go away, but it's not that sense of like awkwardness is just sort of diminished.
You're stepping out of the comfort zone, and that's a lesson for anybody, right? Let alone anyone that is dealing with NF or going through similar, something similar in terms of body image and image in general. It shows like you got to step out of the comfort zone, and sometimes you don't know what other people are going through, or you don't know the type of support you're going to have until you step out of the comfort zone and you know what I mean, and chase it, and then you realize, holy shit, like there's people around that actually are supporting me and etc. And you don't get to experience that until you step out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? So that's credit to yourself and the people that have helped you get to that point. To be able to be comfortable in doing that. You know what I mean? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a Access and Disability Award. I wanted to ask you about this. Cumberland Council, right? Was it? Yeah. Talk about that, because I saw that you got awarded. You got 2023 award for it. Talk a little bit about the meaning behind that and what that's about.
Okay, so that award, that was for International Women's Day. So, Cumberland Council, they have like an award for International Women's Day, and they have multiple categories, and one of them is access and disability. And one of my friends nominated me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so she sort of like wrote something up and then showed it to me for the nomination, and I said, "Yep, cool." And so she talked about how I've raised almost $20,000 for the Children's Tumor Foundation over the last few years, how I shared my story and broke down, beliefs and things, and also challenged the South Asian mentality around differences and whatnot. And so, so I was nominated and I won.
Yeah, nice.
And so...
how did that feel?
It felt good. At first, I will admit this. So when I was nominated, I thought I'm probably not going to win, but it's nice to get nominated, and at least I can say that I was nominated.
That's still a recognition, man.
Yeah, that's still a recognition. And then I won, so I kind of half jokingly said to my mum, "I wonder if I was the only nominee," and I got it by default. And that's just because, those old mentalities came back, about me not being good enough or not worthy of receiving acknowledgement and whatnot. So I just thought, maybe I was the only nominee. And then when I received the award, I realized there were several nominees, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, okay, maybe that kind of made me think, okay, maybe I am worthy of this acknowledgement, and B, maybe I am doing something amazing, special here. Because up until now, I just thought, yes, I'm the NF ambassador and whatnot, but I didn't think I was anything special. I just thought,
it's crazy because as much as you have every reason to feel down about the situation, or not be as positive, or like you were saying, like even just your train of thought in winning the award and thinking, maybe there was no one else, right? You still have to be confident in yourself. You still have to have positive self-talk, and you still need to believe in yourself in order to even get to these situations, right? So regardless of, it's almost like you have every reason to kick a storm about how, your life and what you've been through and everything. You're choosing the other route, which is embracing it and doing something with it, to not only help yourself but help people around you and people in different communities that might be going through it. So you still have to have a strong positive self-talk, you know what I mean? Because the reason I say that is, in general, you need to have that in order to achieve certain things that seem unachievable to you. You have to have self-talk, otherwise shit ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, and because like my wife tells me when I'm going for something or when I'm doing something, she's like, you got to believe that you can, you got to believe.
So when you're going for a fight or
whatever it is, like if I'm, even if as simple as it could be interviews or whatever it is, but like I always, but regardless of that, like I know I have to, you know what I mean? You have to believe. If you don't believe, then nothing else really matters, So regardless of whatever it is, whatever you've achieved up to this point and many more to come, that's a strong character that you have to have about yourself, right?
Oh, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I do have positive self-talk, but like there are days when I have what I guess the best term for it is imposter syndrome.
I know. I read a book that talks about imposter syndrome. So it's crazy. Like, talk about that.
I just have days where I'm like, shit, am I the right person to be doing this? Am I, you know? Yeah. Am I really that important? You know, I'm not, you know, like I look at other people and I see what they're doing and I think, okay, that person's doing X. They actually belong in the arena. And I'm like, do I belong in the arena or should I really be just sitting in the audience? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there are days when I think, am I really that person? Is this really me, you know? And then when I did the SBS interview and these people reached out and they sort of said, oh, you know, thank you for doing it and all of that, I realized, oh my God, I have to do this. And even if I am scared, even if I'm nervous, whatever, I have to step up and do this because I have no other choice. But
it must feel right though. I always say with certain things, if it feels right in your tummy, if it feels right, then there's you're chasing, like, you know, you're down a direction that feels right to you. You know what I mean?
I absolutely feel it's the right direction. It's
like you know, it's not as easy to force yourself to be like, I got to do it, right? You have to have a sense of the wheels in motion, like it feels right. You're gravitating towards it. And I feel like now you're allowing yourself to gravitate towards it all.
It definitely feels right because up until like this point, like, or I still had days where I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right person to be doing this. And, you know, should it be somebody else? Is there another person out there with NF who should be sharing their story and should be out and talking about what they've gone through? And, you know, is there someone, and this is why, like, I think, you know, maybe there does, not that it shouldn't be me, there should be more people out there being able to share their story. And I'm kind of hoping in me stepping up and sharing my story that someone else will be like, hey, I can do that too.
And it will, you know, you may not always see it, but it definitely will, man. Like, I mean, even just for our community, just even for just what you've been through, to watch you know, be on SBS Insight, I'm sure a lot of people would have been, you know, just like happy, man. They would have just been really happy and really supportive and also proud. You know what I mean? Proud because the truth of the matter is that you have to have a sense of courage in you to want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's easy to go into a show. Just a normal person that may not be dealing with something like NF, right? Are stuck in a hole and don't have the courage to just even speak out about certain things or go and do certain things. So there's recurring elements in you that it shows a lot. Like, you have to be strong. You have to have a strong internal. You have to have courage. It doesn't mean, it's like the yin and the yang. It doesn't mean you don't have the imposter syndrome and you don't go through all those things, but you have to have those elements of being proud of who you are and the courage in order to do these things, because they're not easy things to do. And if it was easy, then everyone would do it, right? You know what I mean? So,
but the thing is, so you talk about courage, but courage, it doesn't mean that I don't feel fear.
Yeah, of course. That's what I mean.
Courage is like feeling the fear and
doing it anyway. That's what I said. That's what I said. It doesn't mean that, like, for courage there isn't fear. It doesn't mean that, you know, that you don't have the flip side to the strong elements. You have to have that, right? Like you have to have a sense of, like, I always think when you have a sense of fear, like even with me when I started podcasting, right? I started off with a black and white video off my phone, no mics, nothing. Like, you know what I mean? But I knew what I was doing it for. It wasn't just, you know, oh, I'm gonna do it for the sake of it. No, because I enjoyed talking to people and I enjoyed picking their brains and them dropping some diamonds and gems, and you know, that's gonna help everybody, right? And so it's like, but the fear is there, right? Because people are going to watch it. People are going to be like, oh, compare it to all these other platforms and blah, blah, blah. So, but that fear drives you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like we touched on it before, like, you know, like I'm building towards a future vision, and I'm sure you're building towards a future vision. that vision is not going to happen tomorrow, but you got to start somewhere, and you got to have the courage to believe it. But doesn't mean the fear is not going to be there along the way. That you're like, oh fuck, am I over myself? Am I over my head trying to do this? You know what I mean? Like, am I crazy thinking that I can achieve this? You get what I'm saying?
And after hearing the stories of people with NF who saw my story and they were like, oh my God, I feel better about myself. Now I've realized I have no other choice than to speak out about NF. Like there is. Like for me, there's no other option.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah, it's bigger than me. This is not. It's not about me. It's about the NF community. And like my goal is that in, I don't know, like in years to come, like it took me 30 years, almost 30 years to get to a point where I could speak about my journey, and not even speak about my journey, just open up and say to the whole world, "Hey, I have NF." Like, I don't want anyone else to take 30 years to get to a point and go, I have NF or I have insert other disorder here. And this, this is my journey. I want people to, and to feel okay with it and to feel, and not to feel shame about whatever they're going through. Like 30 years is a long time to be like in prison for want of a better term. Like after I opened up and shared my story, I actually felt like I could breathe again. And I don't think anyone else should have to take that long. And if I can make the world such a place that people, like, I'm not saying everyone has to share their story and has to come out and say, I have whatever, but I don't want them to feel they have to take 30 years to get to that point.
And it's not even like, you have to come out and you have to be in a situation where
you're on the media or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's about even just coming out to your environment, the people around you, and you know what I mean?
Your
like
friends, family, and co-workers.
Pretty much, that's it, man. You know what I mean? So for those...
and that's where it started for me. It was a Facebook post that I... like, it was a public Facebook post, so then... But I shared it, with my friends, family, and co-workers who are on my Facebook, and
it's crazy you never told people. Like I want to obviously dive into NF in the sense, like, just I know you've been on the platform before, you explained it, but I want people to actually understand what it is. But it's crazy how you were willing to not. There was a big period where you didn't even talk about it. Like you didn't even let people know what you were going through, and just let them make their decision for themselves and
make assumptions.
Assumptions. Yeah, exactly.
And essentially that was because I was told not to talk about it, and that was well intentioned. It came from a place of wanting to protect me. My extended family, or it was more the elders in the family, advised my parents not to tell anyone because they had this whole idea in their head of all the horrible things that could possibly happen if people came to know I had this genetic disorder. So they had this whole idea in their head, and they told my parents, this and this will happen if you tell people, so don't tell anyone. And my parents were young. They were a little bit older than I am now. So, they thought, okay, and this is uncharted territory for them. So they're like, okay, we'll listen to the elders and this is the path we'll take. And so they didn't. So I didn't tell anyone, and it was hard. Like at first it was fine because I didn't visibly have NF.
Yeah.
So it was only when I sort of got into I guess when puberty started kicking off and stuff, like tumors just started growing everywhere, and so the tumors started growing, and obviously when something's different about you, people are going to ask. But I didn't know what to say because I couldn't talk about it. So I'd make up stuff. But people know when you're being deceitful. They know when you're hiding something, and you can't connect with them on a really authentic level. So it was very isolating, and so I was very lonely, and pretty much only had the support of my parents and my brother, and maybe a few aunties and uncles who sort of knew about it. But even then, it was still very lonely because those aunties and uncles were on the other side of the world, and so there was only so much support they could offer, like in terms of being there for me, because they were on the other side of the world, and so it was, it was very isolating and very lonely. And when I did come out and share my story, didn't just impact the people on my friends list on Facebook and, you know, like a friend of mine who wanted to join me on the head shave, like she joined the fundraiser too. Unfortunately, she joined a job at a conservative company, so couldn't shave her hair off. So she had to back out. But it wasn't just them who saw it. Like, you know, some of my parents' friends saw the post. Like maybe their kids showed them, or because I was friends with them on Facebook. They picked up the phone and called my parents and were like, why didn't you tell us this sooner? We would have been there for you. We would have supported you through this. And, you wouldn't have, you know, had to face this all alone.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Just that alone, just
like there were people in my extended family, like my parents' siblings knew, but then beyond that, the extended family didn't know. And some of them also rang my parents and were like, guys, why didn't you tell us? And then it was at that point, like, you know, all the comments, calls, messages that I was receiving from people, I was like, shit. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. Amma, if you're watching, I apologize. I was like, oh my goodness. In not telling people about what I was going through, I denied myself so much love, support, and kindness. And, you know, developed, you know, a sense of, you know, loneliness and unworthiness and all of that. And it was just through sharing my story that I started to realize how worthy I am of that love, kindness, and support. And then it was then I started letting people in, and so
you've been a lot of weight off your back, right? But it's also a shame because it, you know, it might have made you feel like, man, what, like, you know what I mean? Like all this time I kept quiet and I couldn't say anything when
I was a bit sad. But then at the same token, like after I did it, I like the best way to describe it, I felt like I could breathe again. I felt like I could breathe. And so the fundraiser that I did, the reason why I came out, just for your listeners who haven't heard the story before, is I had tumours all along my scalp, my neck and my shoulders and my face, and so I needed those to come off because some of them were causing me pain and some of them I just wanted to get rid of them. So I was going to shave my hair off, and I thought, why not turn this negative into a positive and turn it into a fundraiser for the NF organisation, which is called the Children's Tumour Foundation. CTF. So I set up the fundraising page, and my friend Hila, who was joining me on this hair shave, she goes, you should set a $10,000 goal. And I was like, no way, that is too greedy. I'll set a goal for $3,000. So I set the goal for $3,000. I shared the post and everything. Within 48 hours, just bang, $3,000. And he was like, okay, Janu, you've got to go for 10. And I'm like, no, it's too greedy. I'll go for 4. So I went for 4,000, hit 4,000, and then 5,000, then 7,000. And she's like, okay, Janu, come on, you have to go for 10 now. And I was like, okay, fine. So I increased the goal to 10,000. And in the end, I raised $16,000 in that fundraiser that I had open for about a month and 2 months. I had that fundraiser open. I raised $16,000. And so the Children's Tumour Foundation, they were blown away. And that $16,000 actually contributed towards a research project that they were doing, a clinical trial on a drug. So, and now that drug couldn't help me because, so the thing with NF, it has, I'll go into this a bit later, but it has many varying parts. So this research was going to impact little kids with NF who have a certain type of tumour. So that $16,000 contributed towards that, which was amazing. And so because they saw how I shared my story and whatnot, they said, look, you know, you're pretty articulate. You have a good way of telling your story. You know, we're looking for ambassadors who have the disorder. Do you want to become an ambassador? So at the time I was still like staring down the barrel of this operation and I was like, look, let me just get through the surgery first and then let's look at that after the surgery and after I've recovered. So while I was recovering and thinking on it, I was like, no, Janu, you shouldn't be doing this. They should find someone else who has a real story with NF to tell and, you know, something more, something bigger than your story. Your story's nothing and blah, blah, blah. That's just what I kept telling myself. And then I don't know when the switch happened, but so there's a young woman, her name's Carly Findlay. So she's roughly my age and she has a different skin. So she has a skin condition called ichthyosis. I think it's a skin condition, but it causes the skin to be red and scaly and whatnot. And she's a spokesperson for that and people with appearance differences. And I used to look at her and think, oh my God, I wish there was a Carly Findlay from the NF community.
Yeah.
I wish there was a Carly Findlay from the NF community. And
there is now. Yeah.
Well, there is now, but she's freaking amazing, And then while I was recovering, just one day the penny just dropped and I'm like, wait a minute. I can be the Carly Findlay for the NF community and a spokesperson for people with NF and people with appearance differences. And so then I just said yes. And so I started speaking at different NF events and things. And this was sort of the end of 2019. And I had big plans for 2020 to, go to events and speak and whatnot. But that's when COVID hit and obviously no events.
Yeah.
And so it was at that time I thought, okay, what do I do now? And then that's when I thought, okay, if I'm going to be a spokesperson for people with NF, I need to do the work on myself and do all the healing. Because even though I'd opened up, I still hadn't fully healed from the pain I'd gone through and, the loneliness and all of that. So I started doing some personal development programs with a coach named Neuro. So
shout out to my boy Nero.
The guy's a legend. So you can find him on Insta, Be Unconventional. So I started doing his coaching courses and I started healing myself. And not only that, I started to find like an amazing group of people as well who are on a similar journey and had gone through similar things. And so my tribe kind of increased. And so, yes, I had a few close friends who I love to death and they are like the most wonderful people I can ever ask for. But I was able to add to that. And what's amazing is that, they supported me and encouraged me. And in a way, they kind of, I wouldn't say they pushed me, like that's not the right word. They kind of, they cheered me on to just keep going bigger and going bigger. And so I just kept working on it. And then I was interviewed by the ABC. And then from that article, a kid who bullied me in primary school reached out to me.
Yeah, that was crazy when you posted about that. How was that like, man?
That blew my mind. Of all the people to send it, I did not expect it. And I sent it to
people, like we said, man, people grow, right? They mature as, it doesn't mean it takes it away, but imagine what that person would have gone through in order to reach out to you. Like, you know what I mean as well, right? Sometimes it's, it's...
So I emailed the author and I said, hey, just letting you know that I got this... got this message and I emailed CTF and told them and like everyone was blown away. Then as a follow-up, the ABC author actually wrote about it and she wanted to interview him. So I went back to him and I was like, hey, the ABC want to interview you. And he said, just on the promise that I will remain completely anonymous, I will 100% do it. Because like, even though, he was acknowledging his behavior, like, he probably, like, and also,
I guess it wasn't about him telling his story and like putting his name out. It was more about him reaching out to you.
Exactly.
That's what it's really about.
Exactly.
It was about him reaching out to you and talking to you and telling you directly. It wasn't about anything else. So I can understand that, and more respect to that person for wanting to stay anonymous and not make it about themselves. Massive respect.
Mad props to him.
Mad props.
And so, so they wrote another article. And then on the back of that, another kid from the same school had read the article. And he's like, and he wrote to me and said, I'm really sorry for how I treated you. And while I didn't want it or need it, it was just, as I said, it was nice to have. And so, and then things just started to grow from there. And then, obviously I came on your podcast. I've been on Stuck in Between and a couple of other podcasts. And, so my journey started growing and it just all just sort of went from there and sort of, I guess, snowballed from there. And I think But
it's an amazing story, man. It really is. Like, it really is, because regardless of whether you're in, being on these media platforms or not,
yeah,
the reason that I love doing this, and the reason I call it Into the Deep, is because there's layers to people, man.
Yeah.
And if you really listen to people, there's layers to them that can teach you so much about not only yourself, but situations that you find yourself in, or a different perspective. I'm very big on perspectives. I feel like perspectives is it can change, or make or break, or it can do so much for you in whatever situation you're in. So and I think that's why it's an amazing story, because I personally can't imagine, but I will say what I wanted to say earlier about your warrior tribe and having these people, like I always used to say to myself, and even to, just close people, like, the feeling of pain, it differs amongst people.
Yeah.
My feeling of pain and what pain feels to me and what pain feels to you is, in terms of it, that feeling could be the same, right? That feeling of what that's doing to you. The type of pain differs.
Yeah.
And so the reason I wanted to bring that up was because you were mentioning about, doing through your personal development, meeting other people that are going through it. Them listening to your story, they could probably feel the pain, right? That pain is it's very similar than what people think, because that feeling of pain has no story. It's just a feeling, right? So but your experiences all differ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's everyone experiences pain differently, but I think that feeling of pain, you can sympathize and you can understand it, because you're like, man, I've had a situation happen to me where I felt like that.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be someone that that's dealing with something of a similar nature, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important for you to surround people around that are going through something, that's giving them that same sort of pain, or they're dealing with that same type of trauma, or whatever it is. But the experiences are different, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important point to make.
We're all, like, on some level, are fighting battles that no one else knows about. And that's why kindness is important.
I think that's what makes the story even more amazing, because like I said, the time that you took to just be open about it. I mean, and not even just to the public, but just even like friends and people around you. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And the thing with pain is, just going back to that pain thing. So I could say to you right now, hey, Janu, I know how you can live a life free from pain. I have the secret. But I would be lying to you, because in life you are going to experience pain. Like, it's a given. Like death and taxes, it's another guarantee in life, is that you will experience pain. It might be big, massive, traumatic pain, or it could be small, little, tiny pain. Like, it could be any kind of pain in your life. But you can live a life free of suffering. See, and that's the difference. Like, sorry. Pain, like, I'll nutshell it, and this is, I think it's Sadhguru who said this. Pain in life is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And, you can't just, like, how do I say it? Like, you can't just think, okay, life is going to always be easy and pain-free, and think, I'm never going to feel hurt and blah, blah, blah. But you can feel the hurt for, a temporary amount of time, because that pain, that hurt is valid from the pain. But, like, letting yourself suffer long term.
That's feeding that pain, right? That's where the suffering and
feeding
bro,
the pain.
I agree with you 100%. And
Like,
I'm so glad you said that. And if anyone listens, I hope they really take that in, because I think that's very important. Like,
because you're
the
just
suffering
reliving
comes
the
from
pain
feeding
over and
it.
over
Yeah,
again.
it's you feeding that pain, and that suffering is starting to come out. And you're right, because then it starts to impact your environment and the people around you, and they're copying they're copping shit for no reason, essentially, because
Yeah.
you're not really dealing with your internal trauma of what you're going through, right? Like me and my brother were talking about it once, like how we're at the age now where we're seeing people pass away, people that we grew up thinking they were invincible, whether it's aunties, with uncles, cousins, whatever it is, right? And it's crazy because, like, I lost my grandma a couple of years ago, my mum's mum, and that was for me probably one of the hardest things like I had to deal with in my life, because like I was so close to my grandma, and she never got to meet my son, but I was lucky enough to ring her and tell her what I was going to name him at the time. And I was like, you got to come, he's going to be born in this month and blah, blah. She was in Sri Lanka, right? Yeah. So we never got to see her. My mum never got to see her mum, because that was during the whole COVID thing and things were getting, to a person that I've been around, I've grown around when I came to Australia, like being basically a staple in my life, in my brother's life, my cousin's life, like, her grandchildren, right? And dealing with that and that loss and that almost like, you feel so disconnected because you weren't able to bury them or give them the ritual and be there present to send them off and grieve. Exactly. And
funerals are part of that grieving process, and COVID robbed a lot of people of that.
Yeah, and man, it was tough, And then hard. I think about my mom. Like, my mom didn't get to bury her own mother. You know what I mean? Like,
it's mental.
Yeah, it's mental, right? And you have to watch it. You have to watch that stuff through a screen. You know what I mean? Like, but like, and the reason I say that is because, like, I had to deal with that. Like, it took me a while. For weeks I didn't really deal with it, and then one day I was at the balcony sitting down and I broke in front of my wife, and then that was my moment when it all hit me that shit, like, I'm not going to see this person again. You know what I mean? I was just masking it, but there was a conversation between me and her where I just snapped and I started pouring my eyes out, and I was just like, it hit me in one go. I felt better, like, you know what I mean? I felt better.
And you've got to cry and you've got to go through all those emotions.
I think that's what it was. And I think she knew that. She's like, she knows I'm a crybaby. Like, I need to let my emotions out. And she just knew.
We all do, though.
Yeah, she just knew I needed to let it all out. And that was that moment where I let it all out, where it really hit me, the enormity of this loss to me and what it's going to mean to me.
Because being stoic, it serves nobody. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the people around you. Because if you're holding that all in, like, some little thing can just make you like explode, and you might explode in an unhealthy way. And so it's important to feel all those emotions, and because life's fleeting. Like, we talk about losing our grandparents or even our parents' generation. But people in our generation too have, like, anything can happen. Life is fleeting. Like
100%.
Like, like, before the vaccines, like, someone our age could have gotten COVID and we thought, oh yeah, he was so fit and healthy, or she was so fit and healthy. But there could be some underlying thing, and like, they're gone. Or it could be, you're driving down, like, someone's driving down the street.
That's what I'm saying. All these things, they sound recycled, but it's actually the truth, man. And it's not till it happens you realize, holy shit, like, literally today was just going to be another day to me, and now it's not another day to me, because it's going to be something I remember for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And you're completely right. Like, anything can happen. And I think because we live in a world where there's so much going on, and even the second we pick up our phone, we're downloading trillion amount of information in one go, which sometimes is unhealthy, right? We forget to really taper back and realize, what is our existence here? Our existence here is to live this fulfillment, this life with our families and people around us. You get what I'm saying? When you really simplify it, there's no reason to stress about things that are, that you think you need to attain, or you need to have, or you need to be doing in order to have that fulfillment. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, but you have to go through life and those moments to, I think, come to that answer. You know what I mean? And I think we're all sometimes victim of it, because we do have that, like, we need to be here, and that pressure, 100%. Even for our generation's always been there, that this is what we need to be, because this is what, you know what I mean? Like, this was sacrificed for us to do this, and all that. So I think it's unpacking all of that and realizing, man, life is a lot more a lot more important in the sense of your presence and living it day to day and just with the people around you and appreciating it. And when you really simplify it to that moment and to that point, all those, I feel like, unwanted baggage goes away, and you realize it's all been created by yourself.
And you've got to have gratitude. That,
Gratitude. Yeah,
that you're here, you're alive. That that your family are here, and live each moment like with gratitude, because there could be things in our life that aren't working. You may not have the job that you want, or you may not be exactly where you want to be in your career, or you may not have, you haven't bought a house yet, or you don't have, whatever it is, you may not be exactly where you want to be, but you are exactly where you need to be. And so just enjoy life as it is in this moment, and you will get there eventually. And just, appreciate each moment in life. And I guess, so someone gave me this analogy once, and this was, so on the day of 9/11, so there were people who were meant to be in the Twin Towers, and they weren't. And one, it was because it was his turn to get the donuts for the team, and he got delayed, and so didn't get to work on time, and so he wasn't in the building. And he was probably thinking, oh my God, I'm late for work. And another guy was because his kid dawdled, so he got delayed. And like all these people, they had different reasons for why they were late to work. And in that moment, they were probably thinking, oh my God, I'm running late, blah, blah, blah. But because of that, they were not in the building when the planes hit and when the towers collapsed. So,
it's crazy.
And so, I know some people are not religious and they don't believe in God. So I'm going to say the universe. Understand that you are exactly where you're meant to be right now, because the universe intended it to be so. And just...
Well, I actually know a relative of ours was in the building and had to leave. And had to leave or went for a meeting or something, and they left the building. So or didn't go into office that day. But it was not a close relative, but someone that my grandma knew and was and so she told us that story, and I was tripping out. I'm like, can you imagine what it would have been going through his head when all that was taking place? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So that's why when you said that, I was like, man, it's a great way to look at it, But look, we're gonna wrap it up. But regardless, man, thank you for sharing your story, honestly. And there's man, it may have taken a while for you to get to where you are now, but I think strap your seatbelt, man, because you're going to be going at 100 kilometers per hour from now on, you know, and so you should, and and honestly, like I can see, you're someone that I haven't had the chance to obviously grow up around, or etc. But I've got to know you over the last probably year and a bit, and I can see even through your content just your fulfillment and happiness in being able to find yourself in this position, you know what I mean, to be able to express yourself, and at the same time that you're helping people in similar situations, right? Or even lacking confidence, and it's not even anyone that has to be in a specific situation. It's even someone like me. I can get, like, there's so much you said to me today that you'll never understand how much I needed to hear it. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. Like, sometimes you'll say things, sometimes you'll do things that you don't realize that someone like me like really needs to hear it. And I'm not here dealing with NF or dealing with any sort of disability, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that I'm not dealing with life, you know, and what life has to offer, right? And what life throws at you. So I think that's something you got to always remember, that whatever you do, whatever you say, there's lessons in it that other people can grasp and take and be like, shit, you know what, she's right. You know what I mean?
And you've got a tougher job than me. Like, you've got a little boy now, and, you're raising him to be in this world.
And breaking news, we're having a little girl too. So
congratulations.
Yeah. So, and it's just, when I look at him, like, I always break because, like, I know how important, like, his existence, and I never wanted to make it about me, but I know how important, like, I know, like, there's so much that I've personally gone through that it's not about weighing it up and making, like, it's, its importance, but I've had to battle, man. I've had to battle when it comes to, what we call these days, mental health and things like that. Like, I've had a battle, man. I've fought my way through a lot of things, That's why I love, I love doing my martial arts and things like that, because there's things that I found that help me unpack what I was going through. You know what I mean? And to this day, certain things don't change. They're always something else. And so a lot of things that you just said was a timely reminder to myself that, you're doing everything you should be doing.
Find something like in your case, it's your martial arts and your boxing and whatnot. For me, I do personal development. But you've just got to find whatever that thing is. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be personal development. It doesn't have to be martial arts.
Exactly.
It can be anything. Whatever can bring you inner peace. And like those doors that we have struggled to open ourselves, now we have a duty to hold those doors open for the people that come behind us.
And that's the way I look at it now, man. I really do. I just, I'm like, but...
just make sure we hold those doors open so then those people can just walk through. It's about clearing the path so the people that come behind us don't have to face the battles that we face. And it's not about protecting them from battles. They will face battles, but at least they don't have to face the battles that we did.
100%.
And then they'll face those battles, and then the next generation won't have to face the battles.
But it's being just better equipped to know how to handle it. Like it's something I tell my wife all the time. I said, I will never force my son or my kids to do martial arts, like compete in martial arts, right? Like I did. But I would always introduce them because at the end of the day, they're your kids. There's going to be elements of who you are in them, whether you like it or not, right? That
and they can learn
and
from
it. And that's it. And I said I'm never good. Like I know that I'm always I'm not going to be there to stop them from being hurt. I'm not going to be there always to stop them from dealing with some real crazy situation they find themselves in. You know what I mean? They are my kids. I'm sure they're going to find themselves in some crazy situations in life, right? But if I can help them equip certain tools and certain things that they can fall back in order to unpack and deal with whatever trauma or situation they find themselves in, then I feel like that's me doing my job as a father and as someone guiding them through life, and that's all I want for them. I want them to be able to be better equipped than I was to be able to handle situations and learn how to deal with it and be like, you know what, I messed up, but I can process it and I can find my way out 100%. Of it. You know what I mean? So I think that's the most important. That's the most important thing for anybody is find something that gives you that where you can unpack and deal with it. You know what I mean? Instead of just kind of like, in a state of shock and not knowing what to do.
Set them up that so like, if they do face a challenge in life, they're not like, oh my God, I wish my Appa were here to help me. It's like, okay, I got this. It's like, yes, I do wish my Appa were here, but I got
but
this.
have the confidence to be like, I back themselves, you know what I mean?
Say, I can handle this.
But man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for giving your time. Yeah, it's really good to do it in person. And for anyone else, go check out, Janu's page, which obviously I'll tag anyway, so you guys will see it. But follow her journey. Check out the episode that she features in on SBS Demand, on Insight, called, and it was, I think, episode 8, Body Positivity. Correct, and man, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm sure we're gonna catch up in the future anyway and talk about all the other amazing things that you're gonna do. But honestly, man, I'm so proud of you. Without even having to grow up with you and be by your side throughout life, just from what I know, I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure everyone else is proud of you as well.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
No. Thank you for coming and sharing your story. And man, I can't wait to see where your journey goes from here. And just know you always have a seat at the table, man, to come share anything you like. All right.
Thank you, bro.
I appreciate it.